Welcome, everybody. I'm Marc David, founder of the Institute for the Psychology of Eating. Here we are in the Psychology of Eating podcast, and I'm with Emily today. Welcome, Emily.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So the idea is you and I haven't met before, and we're going to spend some time together and hopefully give you whatever assistance you need to take the next big leap forward. And my favorite question to ask is if you could wave your magic wand and get whatever you wanted with food, body, health, what would that be for you?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot the last couple of days, and I feel like the biggest thing is just to actually trust myself and my body and, eat when I need to eat, stop when I've had enough, and then stop thinking about food after that until it's like time for me to eat again.
Yeah. So you want a relationship with food that's just easier, gentler, no worry.
Yeah, how I feel like it's supposed to be. It's not.
So when it's not the way that it's supposed to be or you'd like it to be, how does it look these days? Your experience of food?
Yeah. So my biggest, the worst time for me is nighttime, evening, really after dinner is when I struggle the most. But I feel like anytime that I eat like a meal, when I'm finished, it's really hard for me to stop thinking about food. And it's like, regardless of how much I've had, of what I've had, I still have this desire to keep eating. But that's especially true at nighttime. After dinner, it's like from the time that I eat dinner until the time that I go to bed, I just want to keep on eating, keep snacking.
Yeah. How long has that been a pattern for you?
Goodness. As long as I can remember, but especially the last at least 4 or 5 years. I've had some different, I actually had anorexia through undergrad, and then I still felt that way at night, but I was underweight. And then I went through grad school. I was weight restored, but I still had that urge. And I feel like it's just kind of grown over time.
Mm-hmm. So how old are you now?
I'm 27.
27. And how did you move past the most difficult parts of anorexia? How did you get to where you are now?
So it's been kind of a long road. I had a really bad breakup kind of at the peak of my anorexia. And that's when I decided okay, I'm done with this. I'm going to seek help. And so I went through, I'd gone through an inpatient eating disorder treatment before. That was back in 2014. But then in the summer of 2017, I went through intensive outpatient treatment. And it was really that bad breakup that kind of sparked all of that. But my relationship with food and with exercise and my body has just never really been healthy or what I'd like it to be.
Sure. So these days, when you think about your weight, what do you tell yourself? Are you satisfied? Do you want to lose? Do you want to gain? What do you tell yourself when you look in the mirror?
I'd really like to lose a couple pounds. I'm not overweight. I'm technically at a healthy weight, but when I step on the scale, the numbers it's not really what I like to see. So I'm 5 or 10 pounds would be great.
Mm-hmm. How often would you say you weigh yourself?
Oh, every morning.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part.
Do you live alone?
I actually live with my parents right now. So no.
Mm-hmm. How's that for you?
It has its ups and downs. They're really good about giving me my space and they're really supportive of me and stuff, but it is hard being 27 and living with your parents,
Yeah. So how old would you say you were when anorexic tendencies or behaviors started showing up for you?
Well, I always had trouble with food and I always felt like I needed to restrict or just like watch what I ate ever since probably, I mean, I was 10 or so. Then through high school, like that kind of continued, but it wasn't until I got to college that like my body started to show, I guess, signs of being underweight. Like that's when I had control of what I was eating, when I was eating, what I was doing exercise wise, when I was exercising. And so that's when like it really started to show, but I've struggled with like feeling like I needed to be on a diet since I was in elementary school.
Mm-hmm. So these days, the evening meal and the evening time is more difficult for you. What's it like from the time you wake up with food, up until the evening? What's your experience?
So, daytime is okay. When I wake up, sometimes I feel really disgusting and bloated from however much I ate the night before. But I usually try to I force myself to do some sort of activity, even if it's like a 10-minute walk or a full on workout, before I eat something usually, but I'll have breakfast. If I can kind of get going on what I need to be doing work wise after that, I'm okay. And then I'll have a lunch. Same thing. It's like I'm still thinking about food, but if I can like brush my teeth and get focused on something else, I'm okay. I might have a snack. I do kind of count calories, but I've been trying to get away from that. And then I'll go to the gym and then I'll have dinner, and that's when everything kind of.
So what's a typical breakfast for you?
Usually I'll have, I'll scramble some eggs with some spinach and have like a gluten-free bagel thin thing with avocado. Sometimes if I have time, I really like to saute a bunch of vegetables and add like either turkey or egg whites or something to that. Those are my two kind of go-tos.
Yes. So after breakfast, does your body feel full?
Sometimes, like if I eat the vegetables, yes. And I'll also I have a lot of caffeine, so that kind of helps curb my appetite too.
Uh-huh. So do you ever have times when you finish breakfast and you say to yourself, oh, that was good, and yeah, I'm ready for the next thing, and I don't have to think about food because I'm just feeling really satisfied? Or is it just you really need to watch your mind and get yourself occupied so you don't think about food?
Yeah, so sometimes I do feel like satisfied and ready to move on, but to be honest, so a couple of years ago, I started taking Vyvanse for ADHD, and it's definitely like if I have the Vyvanse, then I'll be able to eat breakfast and move on and focus on other things. If I didn't take the Vyvanse, then I'm usually like struggling and really have to watch my mind and like the thoughts.
So how often will you take that drug? How many days a week?
I'm at about 5 right now. But it's like something I'm trying to wean off of.
Sure. Do you notice during the day at some point when you take the medication, do you ever feel what you would identify as, oh, I'm coming down from it?
Yes, that happens mostly in the evening. But during the day, I do notice it too sometimes, especially if I have like exercised a lot, or if I took it really early in the morning. Excuse me. But yeah, I mean, sometimes, but usually it's not until the evening.
Hmm. Okay. And what's typical for you to eat at lunch? Or what's a sample lunch that you might have?
Usually for lunch, I'll have, it sounds kind of gross, but um, I'll do like a half cup of beans and like a packet of tuna and like some spinach, and I'll mix that up. Sounds gross. It's actually really good.
Those are
Um,
gross.
and then I'll have an apple and some avocado, maybe with a yogurt with some almonds if I'm really hungry. But that's a pretty basic lunch for me.
Hmm. Is there ever any point in the day where you feel ravenous? Like, oh, I am so hungry. It just feels like your whole body's hungry.
Sometimes in the morning when I get up, that's pretty rare. It's only if like if I had a rare evening where I didn't just eat all night. Um, and then if I work out in the morning, about 20 to 30 minutes after I work out, I'll feel pretty ravenous.
Hmm. Okay. By the way, my style is I tend to bounce around because I want to ask questions, learn about you, and move as quick as possible. So thanks for bearing with me as I'm seemingly jumping all over the place. But there's definitely a method to the madness, and I appreciate being in this conversation with you and just exploring. Everybody has we each have our own unique journey with food and our own unique journey with our body. And you have your unique journey. And even though you're dealing with things that other humans deal with and have dealt with, the way you're going to transform and the way you're going to reach your potential is going to be your unique road. That's just right for you. And I really believe that our eating challenges, above and beyond anything else, are just really, there are great teachers. It's your spiritual path in a strange way. You're gonna look back on this years from now, and when you are no longer in the place of trying to fix this and heal this, where you finally reach the daylight, and you're going to see, I think, how it's going to make you a stronger person. And I bet it already has, because you've already made some huge strides.
Mm-hmm. I keep trying to tell myself that, and I do believe it to some degree, but when you're in the thick of it, especially those night times, I'm just like, is it ever even going to go away?
Yes.
Yeah.
On one level, it's people who deal with anorexia or deal with the anorexic mindset and the anorexic behaviors, have a lot in common. And also there's differences. And, some of the things that I find that are most common with people who have been, gripped by the anorexic mindset is control. It's perfectionism. Because if I could just get control of this and I can create the perfect body that I want to create and the perfect weight, then I'm good. I'm golden. I have nothing else to worry about. Because in a strange way, perfectionism implies that I've made it. I made it to the top, and there's kind of nothing else to do. I'm beyond criticism. Because who's going to criticize you if you have the perfect body and you're perfectly in control of eating? And I also want to mention that the anorexic mentality, you didn't invent it. That it to me, I see these things literally, they're like a virus, but it's an energetic thought form that lives in the atmosphere, that gets communicated through the media, that gets communicated through so many different subtle ways. And it organizes itself because of all the imagery you've seen since you've been a child, since you've come into this world. It's a very powerful sort of viral belief that if I can get control of this, that means A, I'm in control. And B, I'm perfect, so I got nothing to worry about. And C, I win. You had the anorexic mindset has a little bit of competitiveness to it.
Oh yeah.
And it's there's a drivenness to it. In order to be in the anorexic universe, you have to be committed in a strange way. You got to put in energy and effort. So what I know about you is that you know how to commit, you know how to apply yourself, and you know how to direct your energy. And your task is just learning how to do that in ways that support you, in ways that help you become the Emily that you're meant to become. And so that's sort of how I see you. I see you as a human being who's on her journey, and the way life is going to make you the best Emily possible is giving you the kinds of challenges, or the kind of challenge that uniquely is going to ask you to rise up and discover how to find the best in yourself. And it's not easy.
It's not.
No, it's not easy, because if it was, you would have done it and we all would have done it, and we wouldn't be in this conversation. So it's difficult to overcome that mindset, because in a way it's bigger than us. So that's why we get help. That's why we get in conversations like this. That's why we support each other. And that's why we just continue the conversation, because to me, that's what helps. So it also sounds to me that a part of where you might be at in your journey is in the anorexic mindset. I have to limit my food, and I have to control my appetite. In a way, you have to control your desires, and you have to control a drive that is fundamental to all life and humanity, which is we need to eat to stay alive. You know, the ultimate bad outcome of anorexia is you starve to death. Mm-hmm. So the ultimate bad outcome is, yeah, I've eaten so little that my body can't support itself anymore. A part of you graduated from that. A part of you realized that I need to be an eater. You're not fully bought into it, but I'm going to guess it's probably about 49 to 50% of you is bought into you need to be an eater, because that's how we do it here. That's how planet Earth works. We're going to need to eat this food, and just got to deal with our desires, what we want. We got to deal with, okay, here's what my body's doing. Here's my body fat. Here's my muscle. Here's what I want. Here's what I like. Here's what I dislike. But it seems like you're at the part of the journey now where it's almost like a little bit of a rebound effect, because you put a lot of energy into not eating and controlling your appetite and controlling your mind, that it's almost as if now a part of you is going in the opposite direction. It's like now that there's a certain part of you that's given yourself permission to eat. And honestly, just hearing you talk about food, when we talked about your breakfast, when we talked about your lunch, you were kind of happy to talk about it. Meaning, I like these things. So the reality is you like food.
I do.
Yes.
I like food.
Yeah. And thank you for acknowledging that. It's actually a huge step to acknowledge I am a person, I am a woman, I am a human being that, I love food, and here's what I love. You've limited that for such a long time. I think that a part of what you're going through is literally a rebound effect, such that your mind now doesn't want to let go of it because there's been so much deprivation.
I see that. I think one thing that I always struggled with, even through the anorexia, was even like believing that I was truly anorexic, because I still ate, But I was underweight and I was trying to restrict. But I think a lot of it comes from this idea that like there's just so much shame for me around food because I was overweight as a kid. And so I always felt like it was never really I need to starve myself. It was just like, I need to not overeat. So regardless of how that played out through the underweight stages, it's just, that's kind of where I'm at now too. It's like, yeah, I love food. And part of me is ashamed to admit that because I'm like, I go back to that little me who was overweight and I couldn't admit that I loved food because, fat people can't love food. That's their whole problem. So I don't know where I'm going with that. It's just, there's a lot of kind of childhood stuff that.
Yeah. But it's a beautiful observation that you've just made. I mean, it's a great insight and it's a great distinction. And I think it's important because in order for you to continue on the path that you're on and getting where you want to go, and to me, forgive me, I'm going to put words in your mouth, where I think you want to go is you want to be the best version of you. And the best version of you has the kind of relationship with food is that you eat when you're hungry and you eat the foods that you like. And hopefully they're good foods and they're good choices. And then you're on to the next thing until the next meal or the next snack. And it's no biggie. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you kind of have the body that you want based on, what your particular preferences are. So, but you're the person that you want to be. And you are not encumbered by feeling like food, body, appetite, body fat, controlling, or feeling like I'm out of control. It's not a ball and chain around your body. So, yeah, when you were a kid, if you identified as, oh, I'm chubby, and if you were shamed for that or felt shame for that, then what you've done to deal with that actually makes sense. Mm-hmm. So the behaviors that you adopted, okay, wait a second, you figured out, like a lot of people do, there's a lot of weight hate in the world, and there's a lot of prejudice against people that we consider big, fat, chubby, whatever word you want to use. And those are the people, particularly those are the girls, those are the women who don't get the goodies. You don't win the prize. You don't get the best life. So if you're slender and you're skinny, this is what we're taught, or you have a certain body type, then if you achieve that, shoo, you're in the inner circle. So to a young person's mind, you're trying to navigate these things. So your strategy was actually smart, because who wants to be abused, beat up, marginalized, and be prejudiced against? Nobody. So what do I have to do to make sure this doesn't happen to me? Oh, I got to change my body. How do you do that? Diet and exercise. So all I'm saying is I would just love you to see in your journey how you did the best strategy that your mind can comprehend at the time in order for you to have a good life. And it's funny how you also mentioned that, at some point you really, and I'm not sure the words that you used, but essentially you said, I couldn't really believe that I was anorexic. And yeah, you're probably right. Anorexia is this term that we tend to lock people into. And I don't know if the word by itself, accurately describes you and your journey. That's why I was using the term anorexic mentality or anorexic thinking. Mm-hmm. To say you are an anorexic. Anorexic is a thing. It's a noun. I personally don't like it. I like anorexic mentality because it's a way of thinking. One can change one's way of thinking. Anorexic behaviors. Yeah, you did anorexic behaviors, but you yourself, I wouldn't call you an anorexic. I'd say you've dealt with anorexic behaviors and tendency and way of thinking. And here you are. A lot of women still deal with an anorexic way of thinking because that's what you're taught to restrict. So what happens for you come the evening time when you start to notice, I don't want to let go of food? Do you notice any other thoughts around that?
It's tough to pinpoint because I feel like I've gotten so deep into it that my mind spirals and I expect it to. So I eat dinner, and when my plate is clean, it's like, okay, here it comes. Here comes what happens every night, which is I want to sit down and I want to zone out and I just want to snack. I just want to keep snacking, and I don't want to do all the things that I said I was going to do, no matter how nice they sounded before. And like, I want to shut my brain off. And the only way to do that seems to be to eat, because I'm so focused on, I don't want to have these urges to eat, that it's like that tension is there unless I'm doing it.
Yes.
If that makes any sense.
Yes, absolutely. So let me just say what you just said in my own words, just to reflect it back to you. And I'm going to, throw in an opinion about that. So there's this part of you that you're expecting in the evening, this is going to happen. I'm going to eat my dinner, but afterwards I'm just going to want to keep eating. Now, to think that thought, that's pretty stressful. To know I don't want to do this thing, but I know that I'm going to do this thing. Right there, that's a major stressor. Mm-hmm. For a human being, I don't care what the behavior is. I don't want to do this drug, but I know I'm going to do the drug. That's an addict. I don't want to drink, but I know I'm going to drink. That's an alcoholic. So that's a very stressful place to live. And what you've learned, and what every other human being has learned, is that the easiest way, arguably the easiest way on planet Earth to stress reduce, is to eat. Because feel bad, eat food, feel better. Every human knows that, and you learn it in infancy. You observe any crying, screaming little baby, and you give them mama and the breast, or give them the bottle of milk, and within moments, they go from crying, screaming, and upset to chill, relaxed, happy, content, just by having a bunch of lovely milk. So let's just acknowledge that food is a tremendous stress reliever. Mm-hmm. But it's this sort of strange paradox that you find yourself in, because the fear again is, well, I'm going to eat after dinner and more, but I don't want to do that. So your brain is going, oh my goodness, this is a stressor. How do I manage stress? I eat. So it seems like an impossible conundrum. So I'm just kind of repeating what you said and putting some layers around it. So I want to make a suggestion. Oh, wait, actually, before I make a suggestion, 2 quick questions. During the day, when you eat breakfast and lunch, would you consider yourself fast eater, moderate eater, or slow eater?
I would consider myself a moderate eater, like naturally. I try really hard to slow down and kind of, limit the distractions and just kind of enjoy the food. That's a lot easier said than done, I will say.
Sure.
But, yeah.
Sure. So when you eat dinner, is dinner meal fast, moderate, or slow in general?
Really depends on my anxiety level at the time. I'd say it's probably faster than my other meals, especially because usually when I eat dinner, I'm pretty hungry by that time. But I don't know. I mean, I'd say like maybe half the time it's slow or,
Yes.
moderate, and then half the time it's fast.
And then when you're eating after dinner, what would you say your eating speed is? Fast, moderate, slow?
That's the time where I try my hardest to slow down. And typically that's the quickest I eat. So,
Sure. Okay. Makes sense to me. So here's what I want to suggest for you as a practice to help yourself get to the next place. The challenge you have is that you're anticipating that I'm going to be doing this bad thing that I don't want to do after dinner.
mm-hmm.
And you're trying your best to stop it, and that doesn't work. So what I would do is I would consider trying this month-long experiment where you agree with yourself that after dinner, I am going to eat. So you're not trying to stop yourself. You're literally agreeing, okay, here's what I'm doing right now. Here's the place that seems to have power over me. So I'm going to actually go with it. But maybe we see if we can put just a little structure around it. Not too much, just enough. Meaning this. How many, is it possible for you to guesstimate how many instances of eating you will have from the time you finish dinner to the time you get into bed?
Instances of eating, I'd probably say maybe 3 on average.
Okay. So then let's agree that from the time you finish dinner to the time you go to sleep, you're going to sort of eat 3 times. Like this is me, this is Emily, this is what I do right now. So you eat 3 times. And what I would love for you to do is to think about what you would like to eat in those 3 times in advance.
Okay.
And maybe it's some journaling that you do where you have a sort of a pull down menu of these are the options of things that I will eat after dinner approximately 3 times. Sometimes it might be 4, sometimes it might be 2, whatever. But these are the things I'm going to be eating.
Okay.
And agree to do that. Relax into it. Slow down as best you can. Put on some music. And allow yourself instead of fighting yourself. Because I think there's a part of you that just needs to have a little bit more acceptance of this. And you're going to harness this situation first by embracing it.
Okay.
Right now, you're trying to fight it and you're losing. The fight is not working. So if the fight's not working, great, let's not fight. Let's make peace with it and see what happens. So this is an experiment. But I would love for it to be a 4-week experiment because you're going to learn different things. At first, you might be saying to yourself, sounded smart at the time, but this is a dumb idea. I don't want to do this. I want to not do this. But then I want you to remind yourself, my way wasn't quite working. And really what I'm looking for you is to let go of the fight and to self-accept and embrace yourself and notice what happens. Because what I think is that at some point, and it might be sooner than you will imagine, some tension is going to be let go of. A certain amount of tension, because right now you're bracing. Your day is about bracing for the evening. And I want to take away that bracing because when we take away that bracing, something else is going to show up in its place. And it's a little bit of practice to take away the bracing. It's not like you're going to do it perfectly the first time. I don't expect that. And it's literally a practice. You're just learning how to get better at that. So, and what I'm what I'm asserting, what I'm guessing, and I bet money on this, is that if you keep doing this, eventually what happens is you're gaining more power over this behavior, over this habit. You will gain more power over it. You will have more insight around it. You'll have more insight around yourself. And because you're not fighting yourself, you're going to have more energy to be in alignment with you. Because you're trying to fight it and the fight's not working and it's just making you unhappy.
It's interesting that you say that, like, I'm bracing for it. Kind of a theme, like talking to my therapist recently, has been like bracing for impact. And she's like, you're tense. And I've noticed at night when I'm going to the pantry for a snack, for instance, my shoulders are up here and I'm like bracing myself. I'm so tense. So I just mentioned that because it's interesting that you use that word, because that's been such a kind of theme for me recently that I've noticed.
Yes. Well, how perfect and how serendipitous. I should say you have a smart therapist. So, and we do that as human beings because there is a wisdom. There's a wisdom to bracing if you know there's going to be impact. You're driving the car, and if there's going to be an accident, bracing is a good idea. So we brace as a form of protection. We brace because we're in a stress response. Something bad is going to happen to me, therefore I better brace. And in bracing, you're being strong, you're entering your body, you're getting in your muscles. When you just demonstrated bracing to me, you tensed up. But really what you're showing is that, okay, I have to get in my body. This is a survival situation. So your brain is seeing the evening time as like, whoa, this is going to be a car wreck. Mm-hmm. So let me just start bracing now. So we're hitting that off at the pass and saying, screw it. We're going to eat approximately 3 different times. And I would love for you to journal and just make a list of here's my favorite things to eat at night.
Okay.
And so far, truth be told, I'm going to guess, even though I know you want to lose weight, and even though I would bet that you probably don't have a lot of weight to lose, and most of humanity would be very approving of your body if there was such a thing. Regardless of that, I'm going to guess you're relatively maintaining your weight despite the fact of what you're eating in the evening time.
Yes. And I frequently ask myself how that's even possible, but yeah.
Okay. So I'm presencing that. I'm saying that just so you can hear it, so you can remind the part of your brain that's counting calories and thinking this food in the evening equals fat on my body. Interestingly enough, that has not been true. Mm-hmm. How lovely. I mean, really, what a nice help for you in this journey. So let's acknowledge that the food you're eating in the evening, as it is right now, isn't causing you weight gain. So your body is just, it's finding its natural place right now, for now. And this natural place that it's found for now ain't so bad. It's not like you're sitting here telling me you want to lose 50 or 100 pounds.
Right.
So we know for a fact that the food you're eating in the evening time is not causing you to gain weight. We know that you've been bracing against the evening time. Mm-hmm. So, hey, if it's not harming you on the level of weight gain, then let's practice relaxing and going with it and accepting it and planning it.
Okay.
Like, I'm going to do this for the next month. I'm going to pretend that I don't have to brace against this because I'm choosing to do it. When in my experience, Emily, when we exercise our choosing muscle, it gets stronger. So at some point, when you want to choose to not eat in the evening time, that choosing muscle is actually stronger because you've been exercising it and choosing to do the thing that you're doing anyways.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Because you're going to do the behavior anyway. So what we're doing is we're going with it. We're flowing with it. Here's what the wave of life called Emily is doing. The wave has just been wanting to eat in the evening time. You try to fight the wave. No, it's still doing what it does great. Let's go with the wave. It's going to be a lot easier.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. And again, the idea is for you to, in a strange way, take back the power that evening eating seems to have over you right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems like it's this thing that just happens to you and I can't control it no matter what I do. And therefore it's scary.
Yeah.
Because this is an eating behavior. Like in the past, you were able to have control over your eating behaviors to a great degree.
Right.
So anorexic behaviors equals I am in control over my eating.
Mm-hmm.
Now in your journey, you get to experience, I'm not in control.
Yep.
That's why I said rebound effect. And that's why I say your journey with food is just being a great teacher for you. And it's teaching you in part, I think, in that, hey, Emily, it's okay that there's something that feels out of control. Let's stay conscious. Let's stay present. Let's find some wisdom here. Let's find a way to work with this instead of going unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens is when you're eating in the evening to stress reduce from trying not to eat, when you're doing that, you mentioned, and I don't remember the exact words that you used, but a part of you is checking out. Like, I just want to just check out.
Yep.
So checking out means I'm not present. I'm not here. I left. I abandoned my body. You and I and every other human being, we all have our ways of checking out. Different people, you show me a human being and give me a few hours with them, I'll tell you how they check out. We just do it. And why do we check out? Checking out is one way to deal with stress. It's sort of like the image of the ostrich kind of burying its head in the ground. I don't even know if they really do that, but there's a part of us that in a stress response, it's fight or flight, but we also can freeze in a stress response.
Mm-hmm.
So checking out is like a freeze response where we're kind of not there anymore.
Okay.
And that's a way of coping. And when we check out, we tend to make decisions that we regret later on.
Not the truth.
Right? So the reason I'm asking you to choose at the beginning of every day, affirm to yourself, today, I'm not going to worry about eating in the evening time because I know I'm doing it. And I'm choosing to do it because I'm me. And this is what I do. And this is what I'm playing with. And this is what I'm experimenting with. So I'm not going to brace against it. Therefore, when the evening time comes, you don't need to check out.
Okay.
You're practicing staying in your body.
Okay.
Which also means you're practicing staying in awareness, practicing staying in consciousness, because we do things that we don't want to do, generally speaking, when we check out, when I'm not present.
Mm-hmm.
If a human being gets foolishly drunk, they're checked out. They don't have their facilities. They're not going to be there. They are not reliable to themselves or to others. checking out can be good. I have a rough day of work sometimes, and my head's buried in a computer, and the end of the day comes, and you know something? If there's a football game on, I want to watch it, I want to munch on something, and I want to check out. I know I'm checking out, and I'm checking out in a way that actually is healthy for me because my snack will be healthy. I kind of know how much I'm going to eat and how much I'm not going to eat. And I'm watching entertainment that's not so bad, that I kind of enjoy. So checking out is not bad, but it's just about checking out in a way that works for us.
Mm-hmm.
The way you're checking out in the evening time doesn't truly work for you at the end of the day. So the eating is not the problem. It's the checking out.
Yeah. I haven't thought about it that way.
Yes. So in my view, none of this that we're talking about is a reflection of you having an eating issue.
Okay.
Yes, your challenges as a human being are expressing themselves in your relationship with food and in your relationship with your body. But you don't have a problem with food. Rather, you are learning how to stay present with yourself. Notice the positive languaging. You don't have a problem with food. You're learning how to stay present with yourself. You are learning how to not check out. You are learning how to be sometimes with difficult feelings or emotions. And you are learning how to have a relationship with food that works for you.
I love that. That's a good reframe from I have an issue with food that I've been telling myself for forever.
Yes. And I really mean that. When I say that, I truly mean it. And more than that, I know it because I've seen it. And what happens is we pathologize or we medicalize eating disorders, eating challenges, eating issues into a problem. You've got a problem. Yeah, it feels like a problem. I get it. I don't want to do this. I don't want to have this experience. Sure. But in the truest sense, this is my great teacher. This is my vehicle for growth. And you are a growing, learning human being. Like every other human being, every moment you've been on planet Earth, you've been learning and growing. From the time you've been an infant, you're learning and growing. And this is what you still are doing. You're learning and growing. And here's where you're at in your journey with food. There's plenty of other places in life where you're doing really well and it's easier.
Yeah.
This is the place where it's a bit more of a challenge.
Yeah.
So I don't see you as having an eating issue or an eating problem. I see you as on a journey to learn how to stay in your body and stay present so you can be with yourself and be with some of the discomforts and the emotions and the pains that happen to us as humans.
That makes so much sense. I mean, I'm just kind of reflecting on even like last night from that kind of lens. And it's kind of blowing my mind because it's just very different than how I saw it before, but it's much more helpful and insightful to look at it that way and to kind of see it that way.
Yes. It's restoring your journey, not as I'm broken, I need to be fixed, I have this issue, which then means you're not the real you and you can't live your real life until you fix this. And there's kind of something wrong with you and we got to figure it out. And what are you doing wrong? What are you doing better? No. What's actually true is you're a learning, growing human being, and this is where you're learning and growing. And truth be told, you've come a long way, given where you were.
Right.
And yeah, you've had some hard lessons. And yeah, it's been difficult. And here you are. And quite frankly, you're a healthy human being. you're aware, you're present, you're smart, you're probably pretty wise for your age, given what you've been through.
I like to think so, but hey, who knows?
Yeah. No, I bet you would be a good help for women younger than you because you've already learned a lot. So if you didn't look at yourself as, oh, I'm broken and I have to fix this, but rather, yeah, I'm just on my journey and I'm learning here. And yeah, some of this stuff is difficult. And part of what I'm learning is just how to be present and stay with myself. It's no different than if a best friend or a boyfriend or a parent just abandoned you. Okay, just disappeared. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I don't want to be with you. I don't care about you anymore. Done. Ouch, that would hurt. But in a way, that's what we do to ourselves when we check out.
Okay.
When I check out, I'm sort of abandoning myself. And I'm letting just unconscious patterns run me.
It's so interesting that you say that, because that's just been like a huge fear and kind of a pattern in relationships. Just like the abandonment thing, that's kind of a theme that's gone on in my life. So I've never kind of connected the two, but the way that you say that, I'm just like, oh, wow, that does make sense.
Yeah. It's oftentimes, I think what can happen is if my life, and I've had this happen plenty of times where I have felt abandoned by relationships when I was younger. And one of the things I learned over the years was, okay, that happened. That sucks. Let's try not to do that again. And I started learning at some point about the places where I self-abandoned. The places where I stopped befriending myself, the places where I just check out and I let my habits take over and I do stupid things that I regret. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing to remember though, Emily, is that when we abandon ourselves or abandon our body, kind of check out, there's always a good reason. There's actually a good reason. We're doing it for a legitimate good reason. And the legitimate good reason is some version of, ouchies, this is too painful for me. Mm-hmm. Pain, physical pain and emotional pain live in the body. That's when you experience physical pain or emotional pain, you're experiencing it in your body. So, emotional pain hurts. How do I get out of that? Well, just check out.
Yeah.
So the you that would normally feel the emotional pain isn't there, at least while you're eating. Mm-hmm. At least while you're checking out, the you that feels the pain isn't there. Therefore, you have pain reduction, which is kind of a smart strategy in principle. Like no human being wants to feel emotional pain.
Right.
Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to have a painful day where people abandon me and hurt my feelings and bad things happen. Like nobody wakes up thinking that.
Yeah.
So we don't want that. So checking out from the body is the strategy most humans know to do. Because now I'm not feeling this stupid nonsense that I don't want to feel.
Right.
So your task is learning how to be with yourself when you feel like garbage, when you feel hurt, when you feel sad, when you feel depressed, when you feel like I want to give up, when you feel like you don't love yourself. Can you even stay with yourself in those moments and not check out? That's where the action is.
That makes so much sense. I mean, don't think I ever would have come up with that on my own, but that makes so much sense when hearing you say that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why we do this. That's why we have good conversations like this, because we help each other.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to get started on my 4-week experiment.
Yes. Yes. I just feel really good about this for you. I really do. And I just want to remind you one last time to do whatever you can do to remind yourself now and then, maybe even every day. It might be a good practice to remind yourself of how far you've come and the successes that you've had, because there's a part of you right now that just sees where you haven't gotten to.
Yeah.
I'm not where I want to be. I'm not where I want to be. I'm not where I want to be. And that's dominating your internal conversation. I get that. I'm not where I want to be either. But what I also want you to have is the balance to that. And the majority of the conversation is like, wow, I've done some work on myself. Mm-hmm. I've done therapy. I've been in therapy, inpatient, outpatient, this, that, the other thing. And here I am. And you're in better shape today than you were probably a year, 2, 5, 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I don't always let myself acknowledge that, though.
Yeah. So I'm just gently reminding you.
Well, thank you.
It's okay to do that. What a good conversation, Emily.
Yeah, this has been super helpful, super insightful. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I'm really glad. And, this might be something that you can discuss in therapy if it feels right for you, just to kind of keep the momentum going and have somebody that you're seeing regularly in your life just kind of support you in this.
Definitely. I'm going to re-listen to this when it becomes available, and I'm going to write down a bunch of stuff, because I think I need to maybe stick some sticky notes all over my room. A lot of things you said, just like, so I hear them or I read them often. Need a lot of reminders.
Yeah. So good, Emily. Thank you so much. Thanks for being so real. Thanks for being so open and honest. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for your wisdom. I really appreciate it.
All right. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Take care, and lots more to come.
Hey friends, we're so happy that you've joined us for another episode of The Psychology of Eating with Marc David. Are you loving these episodes? Then simply subscribe and you'll never miss an episode again. We'd also love it if you'd leave us a comment below so we can hear more about your own journey with food and body. And if you're curious about what we offer at the Institute for the Psychology of Eating, including our internationally acclaimed coach certification training that's rooted in dynamic eating psychology and mind-body nutrition, please head on over to our website, psychologyofeating.com. Until next time, take care. And remember, having the body you want starts with loving the body you have.